Yeah, so I think we're live. Yes.
Yeah, okay. Hello, world.
Okay.
So we're gonna start doing our first assignment on
Yeah.
our MBA Big Data course, Big Data Infrastructure
Yeah.
course. So we're gonna follow the instructions, and our dear expert Sudesh will lead us.
Okay, so guys, let's check it out. I'm gonna share my screen. Okay, share. So let's get out of discussion mode. So let's take a look at the assignment. So today we're gonna go to the AWS console and start some virtual machines, some Linux virtual machines. And after that, we're going to use SSH to connect to those systems, um, create a bucket, and access it. Okay, so yeah, so let's just go through it.
By the way, Sudesh, could you please briefly explain what is SSH and bucket? Maybe it would be helpful to our classmates as well.
Oh yes. Well, I was thinking we could go through it
Okay,
and then we
perfect.
explain it on the fly.
Perfect.
Because there's a lot of concepts
Yeah.
here which you probably the people at home don't know.
Okay.
So we're just gonna go through it and then we're gonna explain the concepts while we pass them over. Okay, so first of course, when you're going to the cloud, you need to have an account. Everyone got their accounts yesterday, and that's what we're using to log in. So let's see. My credentials here. So it's always good to use password manager because if you work with systems, you're gonna have to save and use a lot of passwords. You're not gonna remember all of them, and you really don't want to use the same password twice anywhere. So I use a password tool. It's called KeePass, and the nice thing about this tool is it can save all my passwords encrypted, and I can create new ones as well. So let's say this is my password. I can type my username, this URL where it goes to, and it has a password generator where I can select the strength of the password. So you see here the quality, and these days 16 characters is enough, but it will probably have to be more in the future. So always include special characters can be tricky sometimes. Um, just click the generate, and then you have a password. It's completely random. It's very safe. Save it. Okay, so back to the Amazon thing.
Yeah, thank you for the brief introduction of the
Yes.
KeePass. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so everyone has an account, so you can log in.
Okay, so step one is okay.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
logged in.
Yeah. Just
And
use the URL. So you see here, you see all AWS services, and you see here two things which are mentioned, which are EC2 and S3. So what is this? EC2 is Amazon has different types of services which they offer. You can actually go there if you click on services. So you see tools for developing code, machine learning, analytics. So these are all different types of toolkits, and the basic ones are compute and storage. Because if you want to do anything online, basically you need processing power and you need something to store your data on. So S3 is the basic storage server, and EC2 is the basic compute service. Okay, and you also have other types, but let's not go into that right now. Okay. Yeah, so then you have the availability regions, and normally you would be in the US region. That's where you normally get logged into. That you see here on the top right in the screen, you see that you can select different settings. So we are already changed it yesterday. So why would you want to change it?
GDPR purpose?
Yeah, for example, yes. Um, but also, of course, if we are in Europe, it's going to be faster to connect to a system in Europe than one in the US or in Asia. I- the speeds can change, but in my experience, if you're in Amsterdam, you always want to connect to Amsterdam or something which is close here, and then you probably want to go for Frankfurt.
Okay.
Of course, when you're building new services, don't always use one region, because if the data center burns down or Frankfurt Third World War starts coming up, you don't want to have all your services in one location. So always make sure that when you build an actual service, you use different regions in different areas depending on your requirements. So we did that. Different services. Yeah.
So number 3.
Yeah. From your EC2 page, you can go to different services. So explain that. And then S3 also. So that's just storage. Okay. And part B is probably the thing where you actually start. So creating and configuring your AMI. So what's an AMI? So, or should we start with what's a virtual machine?
Yeah, why not? VM.
Yeah?
The abbreviation.
Okay, let's see if we can switch it back. There's my. Oh, here it is. Okay, so we're back. So the virtual machine is so I have a computer. You also have a computer, and on this computer runs an operating system, right? So I have a Linux, you have Mac, some people have Windows. But the thing is that if you have one machine and you only run one operating system, that I cannot use that system for something else. So servers are of course very expensive, and if I want to host a website, of course I don't want any other people to get access to my website. So preferably I want to have a system which is only for me and not for other people. So what in the olden days, what people would do is they would buy or rent a physical server and have it inside the data center, and then they would host their website and their databases and anything like that on this one system. But to have a real physical machine, servers can cost like between 2,000 and 10,000 euros or even more. It's very expensive, and of course you have to get the server, put it in the rack, connect it, pay for the hosting. It's very expensive. So what I don't know. I think it's like 2005 maybe, or yeah, somewhere between 2000 and 2005.
There was an article.
There came this company. It's called VMware. Very famous for this. They're actually the first company who managed to do virtualization. So what's virtualization? You can actually have a physical hardware with multiple operating systems installed on top of that. So you can actually run a Windows next to a Linux, next to Mac OS if you would want that, on the one hardware. So this allows it for different people, to share the same physical hardware, which makes it, of course, if you share it with 5 companies, for example, you can divide the cost by 5. So this makes things a lot more cheaper, right?
Economic side.
Yes, exactly. So this whole virtualization thing came up very big and providers started providing these virtual services, or like virtual VPS it's called now. So virtual private
VPN?
no, VPS, virtual private server. I can actually let's show it. So I'll share my screen. Application window. This one is probably better. And let's go to the byte. Actually, no, sorry. This is actually no commercial intended. But so you have these different types of hosting. Let's put it in English. Let's put it in European. And you have these different types of hosting. One of them is VPS hosting. So what's a VPS? This is, or what you could call the infrastructure. This is a virtual server running on shared hardware. And you can see like you pay €7 per month for this, which is like completely like nothing. Of course, it can be more if you need more resources. Yeah. So that's a virtual machine. And there's also one of the services which is offered by Amazon. So this is also what you would call IaaS, so the infrastructure as a service. So I think that concept is clear now, right?
Yeah. Professor Demchenko mentioned about the IaaS, right? IaaS.
Yeah,
This is one.
IaaS.
Yes.
Yeah, that's this.
This one. Okay.
Yeah.
So the virtual server, this enables you to use different softwares in one hardware.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. This one. Okay, so now we're going to the page where we can get.
And also maybe the AMI.
Oh yeah, the
Yeah.
AMI. So your virtual machines are starting from somewhere. So normally when you have so yeah, normally when you have a physical hardware, you have like a CD or a USB stick, or you download some software, and then you install Windows, or you install Linux, or you install Mac OS. But of course, with what you can do with virtual machines is they are actually a file on disk. So you don't want to, every time you start a new virtual machine or a new machine, you don't want to really install the OS every time because it takes a lot of time. So what you can do is you can install a virtual machine, and then you can save that disk as some kind of a pre-made template, which is ready to run. And that's what these machine images are. So they are pre-installed operating systems, which you load, and then you can immediately start boot them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is the AMI.
Yeah, and that's what
Okay.
what an AMI
Amazon
is.
machine instance.
Yes,
Okay.
and so you have different types, and AMI is a specific type to start these kinds of images inside the Amazon cloud. Okay, so let's go back. Okay, so now we are on the EC2 page, and we want to launch an instance, right? So you just click the launch instance button, and then you have these AMIs. So you have different types. And you can see here that you can select different operating systems. So you have Red Hat, which is like a more enterprise operating system. Ubuntu is more open source, let's say free. So that's also, and of course you have Microsoft. So of course the pricing of these of different operating systems is also different. So if you use proprietary operating systems like Microsoft or supported operating systems like Red Hat, you pay more money than if you use Ubuntu, because Ubuntu is free. Or
But
if
also
you,
you'll have more services.
I disagree with that.
Oh, really? Okay.
But that's because I'm an engineer, and I don't. Why would I pay for services
Okay.
if I actually provide those services?
Okay,
Yeah.
but you don't need. But if an
Yeah.
enterprise needs,
Well, that's interesting that you say that, but because I'm okay. So I'm actually working for a lot of different enterprise customers,
okay.
and what you see is that there's actually, like what I already know for quite a long time, is that also the enterprise is moving away from why would we pay for operating systems, because operating systems are a commodity right now. It used to be I don't know, like 10 or 20 years ago, everyone was like, oh, we need Microsoft and we need this and we need support and this and that. But then they start realizing, licensing costs for Microsoft are quite expensive, for proprietary products. You pay a lot of money for that. Enterprises, maybe they don't want to pay all this money.
Instead of they pay for you.
Yes.
Or-
So they can give some money to me instead of paying a lot to companies like Microsoft. And that's why you see actually that I think these days 99% of all the World Wide Web services are delivered from Linux machines. So Linux is actually the biggest platform right now in the server world.
Okay.
It's quite funny if you see that actually nobody in the desktop actually knows what it is.
Yeah. But you know.
Yeah. Yeah. So also corporates are moving away from proprietary operating systems, even though you would have support.
Okay.
Yeah. Because the systems are so stable that you actually don't need that much support.
Thank you for clarifying.
Okay. Yeah, so I would always go with the cheapest of the cheapest. But if you're not sure, you can always say, oh, I prefer something else. And sometimes you really need Windows to run specific types of software. Okay. So of course, in this case, we don't need Windows. So we're just going to go with the default AMI.
Yeah, well, so he says here, right? In the instructions, choose the Amazon Linux, which is the first one, I think.
Yeah, so you actually you see two AMIs here for Amazon Linux, and you see a version number, which is always, or it's quite common to have the date when it was released there. So this one was released at 1st of September in 2017, which is quite recent. And then you have this one, which was released in December of 2017. And this one has the mark LTS. So there's a difference between this one, and that's LTS stands for long-term support. So if you the difference between the two is that sometimes you want to have the latest software available, which you can have, because it will have some features or bugs fixed, which will not be there in like a very stable version. This is especially the case for new software like Spark. If you want to have Spark in your operating system and they have very frequent fixes and releases, then you probably want to have the latest operating system which supports that. But if you really want stable software and you just want to have a basic web server which just has to be safe, then you will go for the long-term support. You can start it, you can leave it running, and it's going to be more stable and more safe. That's the general idea. So we're going to go with the long-term support version. Yeah, there is no.
Just one of them. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So the bill is on Professor Gantek.
Yeah. So that was step 4, the first Windows step. Yeah. Yeah, okay, and then it says something about the software which is there. So if you look at the text, it says the Amazon Links AMI's EBS backed image.
What is EBS?
EBS is elastic block storage, and Amazon has different types of storage. So if I go to the console again, and the different types of storage have different uses. So I go back to the storage space. So you see here a couple of things.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, EBS is not there, but
Yeah,
that's,
S3. You mentioned.
is it inside here? S3 bucket. Yeah, I guess it will automatically create some type of storage inside here. Let's see. Can't do that right now. And the EBS is a specific type of storage which you use to start, which you can use to run operating systems from. So you can't use the other types of storage for running machines.
Mm-hmm.
So that's also because it has a different pricing and a different. The thing is, it has to be online all the time.
Okay.
So storage which does not have to be online all the time can be stored somewhere else in a way that it's cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, yeah, you can't use it for this. So you see here also includes a certain version of Linux. Well, this is an old one already. AWS tools, so there's some tools you need to communicate with the cloud. Java, some programming languages. Web server, Apache, databases, MySQL, Postgres, some scripting languages, and Tomcat. I don't even know why you wrote that down, but you really don't have to know what Tomcat is.
Okay.
Right.
Because this is a web-based runtime environment for Java application.
Yeah, well, but this is
something like that.
This is a cloud class, not a middleware class. So let's not. But you're right. Yeah.
So now we are at number 5. Step 2. We need to choose the instance type.
Yeah. So you see here different types of instances. And they go from small to super big.
Mm-hmm.
So small one you can use if you just have like, I have my we say Dutch Huistuin en Keuken website, which is the
cooking website. What house cooking? No, I don't know.
Yeah, it's the house, the garden and the kitchen.
Okay.
Well, it means that
cooking is kitchen. Yeah.
This is my cat's.
Okay.
Yes,
website.
Exactly.
That kind of website.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is where you
Not so interesting then.
Yes, exactly. But if you have like a big website for a commercial web shop, then you probably need a bigger instance.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also have what you see here is on the left, compute optimized. So if you really want to have large scale data processing, or depending on how large it is, you can use different types of size of the machine. GPU graphics or compute. So why would you use GPU instances? Well, Peter said it already. Yeah, you can use the GPU compute instances. Very good
for
mining Bitcoin or other cryptocurrency. You will need you just take the biggest instance you can get. And then you have memory optimized. Memory optimized is very good for fast access to data which you need to have available. So databases, for example. Storage optimized is more for like if you have a website with lots of pictures like Flickr or Google Photos, you could use storage optimized. So for us, we only need a basic small Huistuin en Keuken operating system. But we should check.
Says like
So we check.
Micro.
Yeah. So I'm not going to take the smallest one because apparently that one is not a
Yeah.
free tier,
Okay.
and the second smallest one does have a free tier. So
Ja,
yeah, so we're going to use that one.
eigenlijk wel.
Maar wat... jij hebt ook nieuws
Let's see.
studio.
Ja.
Ja, wel.
Or maybe I can
Net,
just publish it.
Gisteren had ik mijn tentamens teruggekregen.
Sorry, alles gehaald.
Ziek toch?
Veel.
Tenminste,
Do we need to set
hoe lang
the
ik op school heb gedaan. En,
security?
ik was niet echt meer zeker van mezelf.
Nou,
Dus
de
dat was
instance details.
een goede opsteker.
Okay, so you have that open, right?
Dus
Yeah. So now we can
I feel-
configure the details.
ja, het is echt ziek.
This screen provides a number of options to set your own virtual private cloud,
Het
which
is niet
is
zoals
public IP.
wat je
Wait, I think I
wat
selected the
naar
wrong.
Nederland bent. Dat je van
The wrong.
vakken verkeer, aantal weken.
Okay. After selecting it, you should
Oh,
say next
12
configure
weken,
instance
12 weken
details.
les.
Yeah, you did it.
Dus ik heb
Support.
wel echt een
The
ziek
second
hard.
one?
Yeah,
Yeah, that one.
exactly.
You said
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Ja, ik
So one instance. So
Leave all the settings default and click next add storage button.
was ik stiekem ook wel teleurgesteld geweest. Dus ik ze niet alles even had gehaald, maar ik er wel
And here number
alles aan had
step
gedaan.
4, this screen shows with what storage
Dus,
your instance will belong.
Ja, dat is wel
Default
heel
is
chill.
8
Nu
gigabyte.
nog een
Okay.
yeah.
proberen.
Ja, hier.
Yeah. Okay. So what is this? This is the disk. So what I was saying, like you have this machine image, and of course it has to run on a disk. So here you can select the disk type. You see the device. This is the device name. So on Linux you have a multiple drives. So it's very common to have multiple drives in your system.
This is today's
Maar het is nu
terminal.
wel
This
echt
is my own
steady,
terminal.
zeg maar.
So if you even in my machine, let's see how I can show you. I'm gonna list my my devices. So you see here that it looks like I have one physical disk, which is this one, Def SDA. But then I have 7 different partitions. So what do you can imagine? What are those disks for? I can show.
En wat voor stage moet dan nog gaan lopen?
Ik loop op stage. Ik loop op een
So here you have some labeling. Yeah. So in here you see what those systems, what those disks are used for. So I have a Windows, some Windows partitions because I also run Windows. Then I have Linux, and then I have this thing called LVM, which is used to create more disks from one disk. So here you see also you have one disk. It has a size, it is SSD. So
Yeah, SSD and the difference between SSD and disk you mentioned.
yeah, so you have 2 types actually, the SSD and the magnetic. So of course the magnetic drive is a normal drive which is spinning, which is a lot slower but probably also cheaper.
Okay.
Storage is
En
cheaper.
hoe bevalt het
Ehm,
samenwonen?
And then you have 2 types for the SSD. So you have the standard one and you have provisioned type. So
Mhm.
I'm gonna have to check that out, but I think one will be.
Nee, mijn. Ik heb normaal nog een probleem met.
You have the provisioned one, you get a guaranteed
Oh,
Yeah, guaranteed throughput.
speed in the number of I/O thingies per second.
Yeah.
coderen of zo.
Invoeren.
Yeah, it's right.
Gegevens verwerken.
Oh ja.
So the,
Ik ga trouwens
so the
proberen.
difference is that the one of the options, the provisioned one gives you a guaranteed
Hoe lang is het?
speed, which is also of course more expensive than if you just say, oh, I just want to use this disk. Why is this important? Of course, this whole machine is shared. The physical hardware is shared between different people. So if there's 100 people on that server, and I just say, give me a disk, you will get one part of that disk.
Ze gaan het,
But if you need high performance disk access, for example, for a database, then you
en dan
probably want to pay a bit more to make sure that you actually get the right performance. Otherwise, your database access will be slow, and your websites will be slow also, or your transactions or anything you will do. But anyway, for our Huistijd en Keuken website, normal SSD is fine. You generally don't want to select magnetic unless you really don't care. Normally, you always go with SSD.
Okay.
Delete. Should we?
Yeah, the default. Everything should leave default.
Also, delete on termination.
Met sporten bijvoorbeeld vind ik super lief.
Because if we deleted the
Click
machine,
the default virtual hard drive and click next.
Dat is wel lekker.
It was, I think.
Nu kickboksen in.
What is delete on termination?
well, the delete on termination is that if we stop the machine, that the image will be wiped. Yeah.
Okay.
So the instance will be gone.
Okay. So was it default? Was it?
The thing is because I was thinking that he wants to check it, but if you pause it, then you don't shut it down. So you just say like if you have your laptop and you close it and then you open it, everything is back again, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the thing. So I guess we can go to add tags.
Exactly. Yeah. So step 5, tag instance.
Heb je niet.
It says a tag consists of case sensitive value pair where key is name. And name is what you define yourself as a better association with your project.
Yeah, I think he said that we should use some kind of
Die
specific
overvisie
thing,
is
right?
niet zo'n heel sterk netwerk.
It says like you can use the tutorial web server.
For this lab, you can use as a tag key web server. Oh, what's our group name? Yeah, or we can say like, the key is web server and the tag is.
But it's case sensitive, so W is caps lock.
Where key is name.
Dinsdag?
Fine.
Woensdag. Ik ben een chick mee.
Yeah, so
een leuk keertje mee.
Yeah, so you can create your own key with your own value. Okay.
Ja, ik heb wel afgelopen.
What's the key and what's the
Veel meer van. Het was sociaal psychologie, dat is nog wel een leuk vak om een keer bij te kunnen kijken.
Okay, so
Its name. So write
yeah,
there.
that doesn't. Oh, shit. Okay.
Yeah, you write the name. Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah,
yeah,
and the name is what you define yourself. Or just your name. I don't know.
Okay, I think we're just gonna create a tag with our group name, which is DAS, Data as a Service.
Wie zag dat?
And then
Oké, dat kunnen we afschrijven dat je nu een nieuwe vriendin kent, dus ik ken je langer dan 2 jaar geleden. Ja, ik denk.
Okay, so step 6, configure security group. Security group is a set of firewall rules that control the traffic for your instance. At this step, you can create and configure a security group by defining a set of rules. So, okay.
yeah, okay, so this is just I think this is just a set of rules for the firewall. So what's a firewall?
Good question.
Firewall is something like everyone has it. So you have a computer, and your computer is connected to the internet. So how does this connection work? There is a cable which goes from your computer, or there's a Wi-Fi which goes from your computer to outside, and other computers can find your computer because you have an address, right? So it's called this thing IP address. I think everyone knows what that is. I know. Yeah. But this, if you don't put any security there, basically everyone can contact you. If you run a service on your machine, everyone can connect to that service. But of course, you don't want always everyone to be able to connect to your machine all of a sudden, because of course then also things like malware can connect to you. So this is what you used to have on Windows. Windows didn't have the firewall before, and they also had by default file sharing services were running on every computer in the world, which was running Microsoft. But these file sharing services, you could send data to that service in this computer, and then it would run it, and then you would be infected with some malware. So of course you don't want it, especially not for a server. So set up rules, which are firewall rules, which say that these people are allowed to connect to this service. So if I run a database, I don't want to have the whole world be able to connect to the database, but only the local machine. So you would have a firewall which says nobody can access this port. And for a web server, obviously you want everyone to connect because everyone has to be able to access the web server.
Okay, so it's a means of control
Yes.
for access.
Yes.
Moet ook nog niet.
Maar ja, alsnog dan kan je niks af, je kan niks aan elkaar. Ja.
Okay, so actually, if you want to see which services are available and what is their names, you can actually
6 weken
check that
meer
on
gedaan.
the thing.
Van de eerste 3 weken alleen en de laatste 3 weken nog niet. Zo.
Verschilling.
Ik zal het even zetten. Okay. So what you see here is a list of well-known ports. So if you connect to the internet, how do you know where the website is running? So the things that you hit, there is an agreement with all parties in the world, and disagree. Oh wait, you actually they don't see this because sharing my whole screen.
Is zij helemaal klaar met z'n en zo?
Ja, die heeft al een grote mensenbaan.
Dan wordt het dan gered.
Ja, ziek.
And this organization is called the IANA, which is the internet. The Internet Assigned Numbers Authority, and they decide which services will be running on which ports. So there is an international agreement about which service should run where on the system. Of course, you can change that if you want to, but then it would be very hard for other people to connect to your service. So you see here a list of all the services which are defined. So you have FTP, SSH, which we will be using to connect. Some mail is always running on port 25. Currently, you also have other ports, and you also have, of course, HTTP and HTTPS. So secure HTTP is running on port 443.
Maar dat netwerkje
And
toch wel.
En dat kan ze niet doen.
the normal HTTP is running on port 80. So every time you go to the web, the computer knows I have to connect to that system on this port. That's all thanks to the IANA. Okay, so yeah, so now we know what ports are and IP addresses and how they are defined. So we always have to set up SSH because we want to connect it via SSH. And then you have source, which is 00. So this means everyone from the whole world can connect to this service on this port.
Okay.
You can actually change that as well, but normally this is enough, and the SSH itself has another security filter.
So do we need to add our rule? Or?
Yeah, so now we need to add another rule. So we have SSH, and we also want to add HTTP. because we will also want to have everyone be able to access the system via the web.
Okay.
So you see automatically when I select HTTP, it selects the right protocol and the right
the port
port.
range, okay.
Yeah, which is in this case it's just one port, which is 80. And then you see something funny here. So you see IP address with a subnet, and then you see this zeros /0, which is the IPv6 address. So IPv6 is a new internet address,
Okay.
which is longer because the older ones are running out.
Oh, okay.
Already, so that's why you see this there as well. So, okay, so now we open the SSH port and the HTTP port.
If you want to create a web server that you access from the internet, you need to set a rule anywhere with source you
Yeah.
mentioned in
Yeah.
above.
Yeah,
So IP addresses to access your instance.
yes,
Above of port 22,
yeah,
above, from anywhere to this Linux instance. Leave default rule anywhere and click
launch.
view and launch.
Yeah, so okay, so now we select all the. Yeah, okay.
Okay. Now we are at step 7, review instance launch. At this step, you will have an overview of all the settings of your instance, which you can modify before launching instance. So,
Yeah.
you want
So,
to
okay,
comment
so-
on the instance type and the security groups?
Yeah. So we already went over this.
Previously,
yeah, type of storage.
Mhm.
So performance, of course. Well, in this case, you don't really need that much performance.
Mhm.
And then you see, of course, the security groups which we defined. So SSH access, so that we can log into the machine and control it,
Mhm.
and HTTP, so that people can use it as to
Okay.
look on the website, which we will going to run there. Yeah, then there's some other. Which is,
Okay, about
Yeah.
storage, also tags.
Yeah.
And then we can click launch button.
Yes. So now we're gonna launch.
Okay. Select an existing key pair or create a new
Yeah.
key pair.
So the key pair. This is the thing. What I was saying also yesterday. We're gonna use SSH to connect to this machine, and the SSH port itself is public, so everyone can access that port on that machine. But of course, we don't want the whole world to be able to log into that machine.
Yeah.
So that's why we create a key pair. For the viewers.
Create a new pair. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
select a key pair name,
yeah,
like a challenging one.
AWS, like.
Oh.
Oh yeah. Okay. So we're just
Or-
gonna say das 01. Okay. Now we can download it.
Okay.
It's a pen.
You will not be able to download the file again after it's created. It's a
Yeah.
necessary security precaution.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So download the file. Make sure you know where you saved it,
Mm-hmm.
and then launch the instance. Okay. So
Okay.
it's starting up now. You can check the log. Oh, that's it. Okay.
Mhm.
So apparently it started now. Let's go to the instance.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a machine running inside the cloud.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. You see also it's running. It's still initializing, and then it has a public IP address. So this IP address is the address of the system,
Mhm.
and I can use that to connect to that system.
Okay.
So how does that work? You can also use the DNS name, but for now, let's just go this IP address. So to connect to it, I So as I said, I have to use SSH. I just type SSH, then the address, but then it already asks me like, okay, do you want to connect?
Okay.
And I say yes. Of course, I can't connect because I don't know. To connect, I need to know the address.
Mm-hmm.
I need to know my username on the system, and I need to have the secret key, and I need to pass that during the login. So actually, I don't know the username, what they are using for these systems by default. So let's see. What if I just pressed the button? Ah, okay. So then you already get the instructions. Oh, this is interesting. Shay Hamilton. So this Shay Hamilton.
This is the user name.
Is Shay Hamilton. No. So
No.
you see here the username. In this case is EC2 user, and then after the @ sign you see the DNS name of a system. But this is an the example command. But the command as you see it here will only work if you actually have SSH installed. And with Windows this works very differently than Linux, or a Mac. So this is what you can do with them if you have a Mac or Linux. If you have Windows, you have to press this button, how to connect with PuTTY. And then you will get some instruction how to connect with Windows. Okay, so I have to change what this first command does is it change the permissions on the file. In Linux, you have a file permission system, which is I'll provide some extra links to describe how that works, because that's a whole topic in itself. But basically, you have three see three numbers here, 400. The first number determines the rights of the user. The second number determines the rights of the group of the user. So you have, for example, an accounting group on that system, which is all the accountants, and they together can have files on the server in a directory which only the accounting team can access. Of course, this is something which used to be like this long time ago when computers were very expensive and people connected to terminals. But the file permission hierarchy system still exists. And then the last number determines the group permissions or the world permissions. So what about everyone else? So in this case, it says 400. This means that I can see the file and I can write it, and the other people cannot access it at all. So you see this here also. You see here 3 times RWX, 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 or you see this RWRR. So this means that this file can be read by the group and other people, and I can read and write it. So I can change it.
Okay.
But here, for example, this file, I'm the only one who can access it, because this is also another private file. So the reason why you have to change these permissions is because these files, so the spam file, basically contains the password I need to use to log in. So of course you don't want any other people to see that. So I will need to change the permissions so that no other people can see it. Because now everyone who can log into my system can see that file.
Okay.
So I change it now. So check the permissions now. I can see actually that only I have access and only read access.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you only have the read access,
Yeah,
not
yes,
right.
yes. Actually, I said it wrong. Yeah, right. Read and write is 600.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so let's connect. So I can use my key. User is the EC2 user. And then add, and then I'll just use the IP address, which of course, or you can use IP address or the name, which you can find here
Yeah.
under public DNS.
Yeah, it's
or,
given here as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
public.
Yeah. No, it's not the same.
No.
It, of course not.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. This IP address and this name are unique for my system.
Yeah.
Interesting. Mission light. Yeah.
Okay.
So now I'm logged into the other system.
Okay.
Yeah. So we are there now. And so you see, the first thing what you can do is always type that command sudo yum update. Why? Because this is a server, it's online. You always want to have the latest security update. It's very important to update the system regularly. Okay, so let's go to the rest of the site.
Okay. So and the public IP address and DNS name, then you can access your instance from outside with SSH or HTTP. Public IP address, DNS name.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's what we
Did.
we
Yeah.
can-
And B, this is part B.
Mhm.
Accessing your instance with SSH client.
Oh,
So
yeah,
this
so
is
we
for us,
already-
Mac and
yeah.
Linux instructions we're following. You need
Yeah.
to configure your SSH client to authenticate with the private key for AMI.
Yeah, this is
and
what we
user
already
Yeah.
did also.
First, you need to change the permissions, and then use command like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, we already
Yeah.
did this. And then on my computer, use terminal SSH to your
Yeah.
Be sure use it on a public DNS and file use SSH something like this.
Yeah.
We
This
did
is what
this,
we
yeah.
already did. Yeah.
Okay, so number 17, when you're connected, use Unix command line interface
To navigate.
to navigate through your instance file system and available services.
So that's this thing that we're seeing right here. We can actually do is put it there. And I'll put the PDF on the other side.
Okay.
That's how I work also.
Yeah,
This is-
that will be better. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I skipped the Windows instructions because it's not related. And part C, it's elastic block storage, accessing EC2 and EBS configuration panel. So the EBS, okay, elastic block storage. So we first need to access the Amazon EC2 dashboard.
Yeah. So we go back to the window, services, EC2.
And then log into Amazon Management Console to click on the EC2 icon.
Yeah.
Then navigate to EBS control panel, the elastic block store, and then
Let's see where it is. Elastic block store
volumes.
volumes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And here we see all volumes in use and associated with our AMIs. Okay. So creating a new EBS volume. Create a new volume by clicking Create Volume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Volume type should be magnetic.
Oh, he's really a cheap bastard, this guy. Yeah? Okay.
And size 10 gigabytes. So we need to change it to 10. Oh, okay. And the availability zone US East.
US East. We can't do that because
Okay.
we selected Frankfurt.
Yeah, Frankfurt.
So we just select.
Central. Okay.
Yeah. So what are we creating now is a disk. So another disk which we can add to our machine. And apparently also these disks can be in different data centers. So you see here different regions where they can be. So we just select one.
Okay. So 3 different regions for Europe.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I think it's 3 different regions for this data center. So
Okay.
yeah, so it's called EU Central.
Mm-hmm.
So I probably also have EU
Yeah,
East.
East. Yes. Okay. I see.
Yeah.
Sorry. Central.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And then yes, create. We need to. That's it. I think we leave the rest as default.
Yeah. So of course you have this option to encrypt. So if you
okay.
don't trust Amazon, then you can also encrypt the volume. This means that the whole disk will be Okay, so the volume is created.
Okay, so the next step is to add volume to your virtual machine instance and manipulate the volume.
Yes, so we're gonna add the extra storage to our machine.
Okay, so we go to from the EC2, we choose Elastic Block Store, and then the volume again.
Yeah, that's where we are.
Yeah, from drop-down menu, select Attach Volume.
Okay, yeah. So we selected our volume, and wait, maybe I'll add a name as well. So right, the DAS volume. So that we know that it's ours, and then we select the action to attach it.
Okay. It takes several seconds, and you will volume status formation attachment select.
Apparently our machine is in a different availability zone, so we can't attach it. So okay, let's remove this one, and let's see where our actual machine is running. So we go back to our instance.
Okay. A 1B.
And it's okay, so it's
1B.
EU Central
Yeah.
1B.
So we need to change. We need to change it to 1B from 1A. You chose 1A, right?
Yeah. So we get separate volume. And take
10.
So apparently Frankfurt is 1B, and then the other ones are different data centers. So this is our volume.
Okay.
So we have selected it, and now we can attach it to our volume. So, and then you can see here that the devices, which I showed you before on my machine, so you can actually name them how you want. But let's just keep it default. It's always fine. So the volume will be available under dev SDF. So we see here currently now the disk is being attached to our virtual machine.
Okay.
Let's go back to our machine. There's some commands you can use to see the volumes. That is ls block. But you can also go to the file system with CD and then see if it's there. You see a lot of things here, but there should be a block for the device with the name SDF, and I see that it's there. So ls is a command that you can use to list files, and grep is a command you can use to find in the output. So I see that the volume is there. Is it there? Let's see. Yeah, all the way, all the way. Okay, so the disk is available now.
So we attach the volume to the disk. So now we're gonna take a snapshot. I think create a snapshot of the volume, which replicates the data in the volume.
But there's no data yet. So to add data to the volume, we have to mount it.
Okay.
So let's and create the file system. So first thing we do is to create a file system on the volume. You can do that with makefs.
Okay.
We add a type. So normally for Linux you use ext4, and then you select the file system. Def, so there will be available actually. So F is the volume we added. So okay. It says permission denied. That's because I have to be a root to use this command. So I need to be a special administrator to become this administrator. Ja, lekker. Topper. Dus als ik even...
Ja, latte or cappuccino. Ja, latte or cappuccino.
Nee, doe maar gewoon zwarte koffie met suiker. Zwart met suiker. Yeah. So now I became the administrator, and you do that by typing sudo su-dash. That's it. That's how you do it.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so now I can run this command again. And you see all kinds of things going on. Creates a label, checks the operating system, and you see a lot of information about the disks.
Okay.
But finally, you see here, file system information accounting. It's done. So we have created a file system. Now I can mount that disk. So say I want to put it here. So this is my machine. Or this is the server. And I want to mount this disk inside the serve directory, which is you can use for serving files. Let's use the so first.
What are you doing today?
I don't know.
So okay, but, you said that we need the data to replicate it. So.
Oh yeah. So we're just gonna mount the disk in the serve. So this def thing, what we see is XPDF. It's not actually. It's the disk itself, but you can't use a disk itself to write data to it. So you have to mount it. Mounting it means that you make it accessible from within the file system. To mount it, you have to say, okay, this disk will go in this directory. So whenever I go to that directory, I can write data to this disk. So in this case, I will say mount this disk under the serve directory. And now I can go to serve, and I can write data here. So I will go with the cut def urandom, which is okay. Let me just write a file.
Okay, that's the random data.
Hello, and I'll just write hello world in the file. So I just created the file on this disk. If I check the contents, you see hello.
Okay.
Yeah. So this, of course, my hello world file is very important.
Okay.
So I want to create a backup of this file, of this disk with my very important volume. So we have to.
No, thank you. Oh, yeah, I put it there. I didn't notice. Thank you. Later for the copy.
Yeah, top. So.
Okay. So the replication part.
Oh yeah. So we create a
Creating
snapshot. Yeah. So what we do now is we create a snapshot. It's called. It's a backup of this disk at this moment.
Okay.
So create a snapshot of this disk with my very important Hello World file.
Okay.
And to say backup of that's oh wait.
Das is our group name, so
Yeah, so
use something else.
yeah, so the
Yeah,
extra
dear audience,
extra
yeah.
fee volume.
Mhm.
Yeah. So we create the snapshot. So now we have a snapshot, which you can probably see there also.
Okay.
The snapshots.
So you
So,
create. You
yeah.
click the create button.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and now we have to probably restore. Yeah. Okay. So now let's say that something completely goes wrong with my computer, and my file Hello World gets lost. So I just remove hello. I remove my file.
Yeah. Remove it.
And I remove it. Oh shit! What did I do? It's
Oh, okay.
gone. I removed
Yeah.
this very important
But
file.
you don't need to worry because we already replicated it.
Yes.
Okay. So how can we access?
Yeah. So what we do is we're gonna restore the snapshot.
Ik wil altijd trillen van my connection. Als ik jou zie, als ik dat niet leuk doe.
So it's pending. Didn't create the snapshot yet.
Oh really? Oh, you
Oh god, I have this all the time. Oh,
Okay,
no.
completed.
Maybe
Okay.
it was fine. Okay.
Okay.
This is going to be exciting. Let's see
Yeah.
if our file is still there. So we're going to create a volume of this snapshot. Because a snapshot itself is not, again, it's like an intermediate format. But to be able to mount it and access it from the file system, we also need to put it back again
Okay.
as a volume. So
Okay.
we create a volume again. And we're not going to go
So
with
yeah, we
magnetic.
are now doing. I think in the panel create volume, you can select any project create volume. This is something else.
Yeah, this is it.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Oh,
of
you
course,
okay?
yeah.
Okay.
And now we're going to use an SSD because the SSD is a lot faster. And then you don't have to be scared the next time you create a snapshot because the snapshot will be instant.
Okay.
So we just use the standard general purpose SSD. Of course, the size has to be
10.
yes,
Yeah.
because of course, if I have a lot of data on my disk, and I give it the disk a size of 1 gigabyte while the data is 10, of course my restore will.
Okay.
So always keep that in mind. You can always restore to a bigger disk, but not to a smaller disk. I mean, it's possible, but let's say for now that it's not supported.
Okay. So
Yeah. So we're gonna put it back again in our
1B,
zone. 1B.
create.
Create. So we have created a new volume. Let's go there. And then let's name it again because then you know, like, okay, that's
Save or create.
extra
Recreate.
2.
Oh yeah.
2.0. So now we're gonna put this one back in our machine. So we're gonna attach this volume to our machine. So we're gonna add it to the DAS, and now you see that it will run as G. So
The
so
previous one was an SDF.
yeah, the
This is
previous
G.
one
Okay.
was F, and now the next one will be G, and then
Okay.
it will just like continue.
Okay.
Romy tegen. Maar Romy is de dochter van mijn oude kapstaan.
Oh!
Dus ik zeg, ga maar kap. Hoe lang is het dan?
And in the meanwhile, we enjoy our hot coffee, which is brought by our lovely assistant Peter. Thank you, Peter.
You're welcome.
This is what systems administrators do a lot of their time, also
Drinking coffee.
drinking coffee. Yeah.
Die duif.
Okay, so it seems our volume is attached now. So I can see this also, of course, if I run my command, this block, and I can see that there's an F and I can see now that there's also G. So what I will do first, of course, I will not unmount my F directly. First, I will check if the data on G is correct. So I'll mount it under the mount directory. So I'll make the temp the check G. You can name this however you want, but I'll just do it like this because it's more clear. And now I'm going to type the mount command again, xvdg, and I'm going to mount it there. So let's see if our data is in this directory. Oh, it looks like it. Oh,
Okay.
yes, our very
Okay, hello
important
world.
file.
Yeah.
Our very important file is there. So now I know that I can safely unmount the other directory and put this one in the right place. So I'll unmount it first. So you type umount to remove the
Okay. It
disk.
was not a typo then. Okay.
Yeah. No, this was a typo. Actually.
Okay. Okay.
Umount is the right command. You don't get any feedback, but you can check that it's unmounted if you type mount. Then you will not see it in this list. So you see that F is mounted, but if I will look for G, then it's not there. So let's unmount F. So you can umount surf. So I type the location where it was mounted. And now I will mount G again. On the surf. So now we should have on the surf also again back our file. And it looks like hello is there. And voila,
Yeah.
we're back. That's how you restore a disk,
Okay.
ladies and gentlemen.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, we did that.
Okay. And also regarding the warning, also the professor mentioned yesterday, just turn it off when you're using. Otherwise, it will cost you money even
Yeah.
if you do not use it. So,
Yeah.
like, can you mention how we can close it, and also it's gonna
okay.
be on his account, but like still
Yeah, but
should be worried, right?
we will do that in the end, right?
in the end. Okay, so
Yeah.
not here because it says that you will pay for the storage. Okay, you delete the snapshot when it is not needed.
Oh yeah, okay. So let's delete the other snapshot,
Okay.
which is the. Oh yeah, so actually the snapshots we don't need it anymore because we have volume. So let's delete this snapshot.
Okay.
So of course this means we don't have any backups now anymore,
Okay.
which you probably normally you don't want. You said delete, right?
Alternatively, you can move your snapshot to long-term storage Amazon Glacier, but it also costs money, right? Or
Yes,
is it's not?
but it's cheaper.
Okay.
Glacier because it's a long-term storage, so it's slower disks and it's like far away in the dark corner of the data
Okay.
center
Okay.
where the disks are getting dusty and
Okay.
yeah.
Avoid.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's see. So then we can also delete our other volume. We can detach it because we don't use it anymore. Because we have the 2.0 now, which is faster and better and more expensive, of course.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So first, of course, you detach it from the machine, and then you can remove it.
Okay.
But okay, we can let it go. So what's next?
So we need to create a bucket. Could you please briefly explain what is a bucket in the IT world? I mean.
Yeah. Okay, so you have different types of storage, of course, which we already went through. So you have these disks, which you can use for running the systems.
Okay.
Then you have separate volumes, of course, which are separate disks which you can attach to running volumes. And then you have special types of specialized storage, for example, for databases, for other things. So these buckets are a special type of storage for web content. Um, and that's what we're going to create.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here it says S3 is an Amazon object storage. Every object in Amazon S3 is stored in a bucket. Bucket is identified by an accessible URL. Okay.
Yeah.
S3 can be used for storing static content, including hosting static web server query or only static.
Yeah.
Okay, so we follow the
yeah,
sequence.
yeah. So this is for storing everything what you can data which you can retrieve online.
Okay.
Yeah. Create bucket.
Yeah, click on okay, in the AWS console, click on the Amazon S3 icon.
Yeah. So you go to services.
Yeah.
You go to S3,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're here in the panel, and then you can create.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah.
You are not charged for creating that bucket. You are only charged for storing objects in the. Okay. In the dialog box, you can select the bucket name and the region.
Well, the region is Frankfurt because we did it in Frankfurt. And now the name, we just create the DAS bucket.
Okay.
DAS bucket 01.
And we already select the region. Okay.
Yeah.
Create button. Okay, you can choose a region to optimize minimum space, storage latency. We already mentioned these before. So now number 3, bucket configuration items. Now you can view your newly created buckets, which we can see.
Yeah.
On the right side of the Amazon S3 console, you will a number of configuration properties items. So
Yeah. Should we check? We should check them in the bucket itself. Right?
yeah.
Okay. So
Here.
create it,
Okay.
and then
So
properties.
permissions, all the other details.
Permissions. Yes. So yeah. So it's linked to an account.
Okay, so he says that we will experiment some of them. Do you want to mention, or should we go step by step?
I think we can just go through it. Otherwise, it will be too
Okay, too much. Okay. So now we will add an object to Amazon S3 bucket that we created. The bucket is created, but it's empty. Yeah. And we'd like to add an object to it. An object can be any kind of the file, text, photo, video. When you add a file to Amazon S3, you will the option to include metadata with the file and set permissions to control access to the file. Okay. Now return to the Amazon S3 console and click the Amazon S3 bucket where you want to upload the file, and then next click upload.
Yeah, so we go back to the S3, we go to the bucket, and then we can upload stuff there. So let's see, let's add something there.
Okay. This is a
Let's
Java
see
based, so you need compatible browser. You can add
So we have this nice picture here of someone who's very famous somewhere in the world.
Yeah.
And we have this nice picture, and we're gonna upload it. So we selected it, go next, and
Okay. You
that's
said
it.
upload.
Yeah. Oh, so you just click on it.
Yeah.
Okay. So now it's there.
It's completed.
Yes.
Okay. So when upload process finished, you view upload in the we see it now in the browser. If you click on the bucket link, it will show the bucket content.
Okay, let's see.
If you upload the entire folders, you can read the folder content and individual files. Okay. Now we uploaded the data file to our bucket. Now exploring the actions menu. Again, go back to the Amazon S3 console, please. And then if you click on the actions button, you'll see many of available actions. Like
The actions button. Where is it? Is it inside the?
main. Okay, Amazon S3 console. You click on the actions button. Actions menu.
Open, download, make public. Okay, so maybe the competition.
Actions.
Actions, come on, come find actions. There's no actions on this page.
Even if you click the bucket, we couldn't find, right?
No. So we need to make it public, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay. The same selection is available if you right-click on any object file in the bucket.
Well,
This will help, I guess.
yeah. So right click. Oh yeah, this is it, right?
Yeah. So you can spend some time experimenting with the available actions. Okay, rename
so we
or
can-
like
we can-
cut, copy, whatever.
Rename. So I just call this
Sorry.
Osama. Osama.
Okay.
So, okay. So we renamed the file.
And then maybe we can copy.
Oh yeah. Okay. Of course. We can copy it. Let's say create a new folder. Osama pics. Let's go there, and then we can paste it. So yes, so we're gonna paste our Osama pic in the Osama folder.
Okay.
So it's there now, and then we can delete this one. So
Okay.
delete.
Okay. So
Yeah.
we've done a few
Actions.
actions. Okay. Now we can skip to the next step. We wing adding metadata. Right click in the object and select properties. And extend the metadata menu, which is, I think, yeah, maybe. You will have none or default metadata content type, which is defined automatically.
This image.
You can add a number of preset metadata types and also introduce proper metadata.
So you have different what these things are, because this is web content. You see metadata. What metadata does is it gives some instructions to the browser, so your Firefox or Chrome or Safari, on how to treat this content. So you see here a content type. So it's image JPEG. So this tells the browser that it should render this data as a picture. But you can also have different. You also have different content types. One very common is text HTML. So it says this is an HTML page, or this is a PDF, or this is an audio file, anything like that. It just helps the browser to determine what it is, what it should do with it. Then you have also the language, which is very important. If you have pages in different languages, then they always say this page is in this language, so the browser knows, okay, this is my language, or I need to take something else. And cache control. So cache control is very important for how long it should keep the file in the cache. So if you have
What
static,
is cache?
So yeah.
Sorry, yeah, we have also classmates with no IT background. So,
Yes, yeah, I completely forgot about that for a second. So what is cache? Cache is something which is very, very important. What it does is, whenever you go to a website, if you don't have cache, you will download the files, all the files from the website, every time, again and again and again.
okay.
But if you have cache, then you can go to the website. The first time you will download everything, and then the second time you will only download the content which is new. So this cache control allows you to set how long this file is valid. So you can say, okay, this is a static page with a file which never changes, so you can keep it forever. Or you could say, oh, this is a file which is sort of a news item which changes every time, so like a ticker or something. So you can never store this in the browser. Or, for example, if you have security, privacy content like your bank account information, you never want it to be cached anywhere.
Yeah,
So
sure. Okay.
that's what. So you never want it to be stored somewhere temporarily, because if the data comes out, then it's going to be outdated. So what people can see is you will go to your bank account and then you will see old numbers. It's like, hey, wait, my salary was supposed to be deposited today. Where is the money? You know?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So that's the thing.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. So take that out. Or let's see if maybe we can add something. Let's add the expire. So cache is a very complicated topic. People are specialized in this because there's different ways to set it and to control it. And the way how you set it, you can set it in the browser, for example, but you can also set it on the web server itself, because the web server itself is also connected to a database, and from the database can also have a cache. So for frequently accessed content. So let's see how we need to fill this this in. Expires. So HTML. So of course, nobody always knows all the tags and what they all mean. So you always just Google it and say, okay, what should it be? You know? Cache control. You should actually put in a date there. Interesting. Force a modification check at each visit. Okay, let's just put to 0 and say this file is very important. We want to have someone download it every time. So this is also what you would, for example, do if you have tracking pixel, for example. You say, I want to have the pixel downloaded every time, because then I can really track my customer on every page he's visiting.
Ah, okay.
Because if he will cache it and my pixel will not be downloaded, I cannot see that my customer visited that page. Yeah, so we set this meta tag on this file. You can see, at least I thought we did. Expires. Save. Change. Save. That's strange. Yeah, okay, so apparently I saved it, but I have to refresh the page to get the latest setting. Okay.
So moving an object in Amazon S3, you can simply move the objects to different buckets using S3 web closer tools. Use the previous sequence, create a new. Okay, so we're going to create a new bucket, and then we're gonna move
that one
in between buckets.
Okay. This is a long assignment.
Yeah.
Every time I'm thinking, oh, it's done. Yeah, I'll leave it. So there's my bucket. So let's take our beautiful Osama picture and move it to the other bucket. So I probably just select it and move it right click.
Right click on the object and click cut copy. Yeah.
Okay.
and then go to the other bucket.
Okay. Paste. So
Okay.
Osama is moved to the new bucket.
Okay, perfect. So, experimenting with other Amazon S3 console functions in a similar way, experiment with other functions such as delete. We already
we did that. Yeah.
making your S3 object public.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, if one of your files is HTML file, you can make it public. That is accessible to everyone, I guess. Select object in the Amazon S3 console. In the right frame, okay, you will see its properties, including its URL. Yeah, there, the link. By default, object is set private. That is, you cannot access it on the web. So we are going to make it accessible to changing the property to public. So make public, I guess.
Properties.
Yeah, I saw it recently. No, the previous page you were in, there was make public. Yeah, here, I guess. Yeah, that
okay.
one.
That's good.
Okay, so when action fulfilled, you will see property icon next to object URL has changed to public.
Yeah. There we have it. Osama is all.
Now, yeah, unfortunately. Now you can click on the link, and the new browser windows will show you your HTML file content.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
There
and
we
your
have.
lab.
Yeah. And
So
yeah.
we need to end it. Okay.
And your lab.
And your lab, yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna close this one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So part E, I think this is the final part? No.
Oh, Jesus.
This
What's wrong with this guy?
Elastic load balancer. To create your first Amazon Elastic Load Balancer instance, you need first to log in to your AWS account, then go to the Amazon Management Console next to Amazon EC2 dashboard.
Wait, which one? So, EC2 dashboard. It's load balancer should be in here, right?
Is that you need at least 2 AMI running. You can create additional instances using guidelines in section B.
Yeah, okay. Amazon Wikimap to configure. Okay, wait. Maybe it's not there yet. Maybe we should create a new instance first. Okay, so we have an instance already. We're just going to clone it and then launch more like this. Oh.
Okay.
Open to the world. That's fine. To micro. Yeah, so launch. We're gonna put the same security key on this system as we did in the other.
Okay.
This is funny actually, that you have to confirm that you need this key to access the system. So probably this is like a liability security thing, that if you launch a system, that you are the only one who can access that system. Amazon not, so people
also kind of disclaimer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, so we cloned the system, so now we have 2 instances.
So can you see the network and security group? You need to click load balancers.
Yeah, where's the load balancer?
Network interfaces there.
Oh, here, load balancers.
Yeah, load balancers. Okay.
Yeah. So, do you guys know already what the load balancer is?
No.
No.
No, you haven't.
No, I haven't explained it. So, let me show you a nice picture there.
We need to leave in 15 minutes.
Okay. Oh, that's
So, yeah, that's a pity. Like,
there's so much to.
I'll read them most of it.
Maybe this picture. Yeah. Okay. So this is not the greatest picture, but it should do for now. So normally in any web architecture, you have 3 tiers, which is a web tier, business logic tier, and the data tier. So what does it mean? In the web tier, you have systems which are facing the internet. So when you go to a page, you will see the web server, which is the web tier. Then behind that, you have that's what they call business logic, or actually, like now this is which is let's say some kind of like a Java application will be running there, or this Hadoop, or any kind of processing which is being done in the background. And then behind that, you have the database, which has the actual data. Why is it built like this? It's built like this because this allows you to run different types of services with different requirements on different systems. So databases have different types of storage and speed requirements than processing layers and web layers. So by separating these units, you can make it more scalable, and you can make it higher available. If you have only one system and it goes down, then your application is unavailable. But if you have more systems, then if one system goes down, then the others are not affected by that.
Okay.
But then in that sense, you need a load balancer. What the load balancer does is when someone goes to this service which you're offering, it says you can go to this machine, you can go to that machine, you can go to that machine.
Okay.
So the load balancer is basically what it does, balance the load.
Okay, so like from financial perspective, I can say that it's risk management.
Yes.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
Operational risk
Yes,
management.
exactly. It makes sure that the bank is always all right.
Okay.
Yeah. So when one data center goes down, the load balancer can make sure that you can go to the other data center.
Okay. Thank you for explaining it.
Yeah. Okay, so we will create a load balancer now, which will redirect our requests to either the one instance or the other one.
Okay.
So we're gonna create.
So we need to start load balancer creation wizard.
Yeah.
You're already there. Okay. By clicking create load balancer button. Okay. Input a name such as IE tutorial load balancer. Only alphanumeric characters and a hyphen are allowed.
Yeah, just say what type of load balancer you need to.
Leave all the remaining default settings and click continue. No, it doesn't. Classic, I guess.
Classic. Let's go with.
It does not specify.
Doesn't matter which one. Okay, so we're just gonna go with the HTTP load balancer,
Okay.
because we're just gonna do the. So we're just gonna write as LB01
Okay.
internet facing. You can do a dual stack, why not?
Okay.
Which this means you can connect with IPv4 and IPv6.
Which does not make any sense for me.
Okay, let's not make it too complicated.
Okay.
IPv4, and this will load balance all the web requests to our both instances in the
Okay.
EU Central 1P.
Okay.
At least 2 subnets.
What is subnet? Okay. The
Yeah,
location.
yeah.
Okay. What is it gonna be?
Okay, this will be interesting. Okay, yeah. So this load balancer can route traffic to these different locations.
Okay.
So if I have one instance in one zone, it makes sense to put the other instance in another zone. that for now. Security wizard.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now change all the advanced details to the smallest possible values. Okay, response time up to 2 seconds.
Wait, I think we're not there yet.
Okay.
Security. Does it say anything about security groups?
Health check and advanced details. No, we are not there.
We are somewhere else.
Oh, health checks. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Health check interval is 0.1 minute. Is it possible to?
Oh, that's
Oh yeah,
this
advanced health
part.
checks.
Okay, wait. The target group. Yeah, new group. So that's web services. Web service. So this is our group, our web servers. The instances. So health check. It means the load balancer will check every second or every millisecond if a server is still online, and if it's down, then it will recognize that it's down, and it will not send any traffic to that server anymore. So yeah, you want to have this all very fast, everything on one.
Health check interval is 0.1. Do you see it? Yeah, interval. This is 30. So I think it's going to be 0.1. The smallest as possible.
Timeout.
No, timeout. Timeout is 2 seconds. 2 seconds. And
the other ones. Okay, 2. Okay. Wait.
healthy threshold is 2. The first one. Healthy threshold is 2.
Yeah.
Unhealthy threshold is 2 again.
Mm-hmm.
And the 30 it should be 0.1. Success codes, I don't know.
Yeah, this is the HTTP. Health check should be 5 then.
Oh, because it's second.
0.1
6
minute. 10 seconds.
6 seconds.
6 seconds. 6. Okay.
Maths.
That's
Okay.
that's the trick.
So.
Yeah.
Okay, in the next step, you will select the security group from your existing security groups. To do this, choose the radio button, choose from existing security groups.
Yeah, but in this order, it's different than apparently how we did it. So we already did that part.
Okay, now with the instance. Okay.
Yeah, so we select all the instances which we have.
Select instances you want to be load balanced by clicking the checkbox.
Yeah, and then
next
add.
to each of the 2 instances, and click continue.
Yeah.
Or the next. Okay, click create to finish. And click load balancers link and check their status.
Yeah, so it's there. Let's move one of our instances to a different region, because then it then it actually makes sense. Change security. Let's not worry about it. Even kijken. Yeah, you have to go.
Okay, 5 minutes. But almost we are done with E. We only have F left.
Spot yeah, let's just finish E and then do F.
Okay.
But I'm not going to talk to myself.
Yeah, you're doing fine.
Still proficient.
Okay. Click the instance tab. Wait a few minutes for instances to become available. they will likely to be listed as out of service until they are fully activated. Okay. Click on the description tab to find the load balancer's DNS name. Description. DNS name. Okay, here the second one. The Elastic Load Balancer and the resources take a few minutes to create, only for the first time. After approximately 10 minutes, copy the string between DNS name and the record. The string will look like this. Okay.
But I really, this will not work because the
Gateway.
yeah. No, the thing is that I think we didn't install a web server, right? So there's nothing there. So let me log into that thing. Install a web server. So what I did is I installed a web server, yum install HTTPD, and now I have to start it. Enable. Start. So I have to check the logs now. I can see the requests coming in from the health checker. But I also have to do this for the other system. Going to log into that other system. Pass my key. Yes. Let's go back to XSS. Patch it again. That's interesting. Wait, I'm becoming the same. This was not the right. Maybe this is the new So we're going to create the XML. So now I'm installing the web server on the other machine as well. Starting with services.
I need to leave.
Yes. Okay.
We're almost done with the FE. Then like that, so that you will continue the other presenter. So
Yeah.
good luck. Sorry that I had to leave.
Okay, yeah, it's fine. Okay. Now. Yeah, it took a little bit longer than I expected. This is gonna be so boring to do it, but it's okay. Still have Peter.
Oh yeah. Our dear Peter.
It's that late already.
Oh, come on, man, don't leave me.
You're still recording? Or?
Yeah. I'll finish this part.
Speak responsibly.
Yeah. Good.
Thank you, and see you, and thank you for the coffee.
You're welcome.
And your coffee.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
See you next week.
Yes.
I'm not available next week.
Yeah.
Then I'll do live streaming on Tuesday as well, or not?
And apparently we're gonna do live streaming every day from now on. So
Okay. So the professors are okay with that.
I don't know. They haven't complained, so.
Okay.
It's like an implicit consent or
Yeah. Implicit consent.
consent. Yeah.
Concept, yeah.
Good.
Perfect. Thank
Okay.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So do you eat or?
I eat yes,
General?
sometimes.
Yeah.
Maybe I can put this one on hold for a while. I can stop the broadcast.